Like Han Solo said, never tell me the odds.
Exactly.
This is a presentation of Smacking Off the Podcast. The voice of Carl Brutananadilevsky is generated at 15.ai.
Welcome, football fans, to another quality edition of Devine's Games of the Week.
Hey, good evening. How we doing, Doug?
Pretty good.
Good.
Pretty good. I seen that Gabe's not going to be in, but we'll pull it off.
Yeah. No, he had a family issue, so he won't be joining us this evening. That's okay. We'll get him back next weekend.
Yeah, because we're gonna pile on Auburn tonight. God damn it.
Well,
Oh, shit.
I don't know if we really need to.
Auburn's a sneaky team, man. They're gonna beat somebody. Watch.
I agree. They might beat Georgia next week.
You know what? It wouldn't be the weirdest thing that ever happened. I don't think it'll be Georgia though. But
I don't either. But you never, Georgia plays like they did against Missouri.
We know who they're going to beat. We know one thing, absolutely. Whoever they beat, it's going to be in Jordan-Hare. So I feel pretty good as an Alabama fan.
Yeah, right. That game's in Tuscaloosa this year.
Yep.
But quick recap of our top 5 games from last week. All were entertaining, other than number 5 was the score was closer than the game was. That was the Washington at UCLA game. UCLA pretty much controlled that game from the jump, and Washington got a couple of garbage time scores there to make it a little more interesting. But so I think Washington's trending in the right direction, which is good for Bruce and that fan base. But that was really the only one. Other than towards the end of the, we had our number 3 game, Alabama. That Bama started to run away with it at the end there.
Yeah, but the game was still entertaining as shit.
Yes,
all the way through the third quarter. So it was valid just for that reason.
I think that's what we said too. We expected through the third, maybe a little bit into the fourth, and then I don't think we expected it to get that way. How it got that way.
Yeah, I don't think nobody ever thinks that the starting quarterback's going to go down. So that's
right. But the young man Milroe looked very good in the time that he was in there. He just missed one pass. Probably would have been a touchdown if he throws it a little earlier.
Yep. No way to get that experience though, except what he was doing. So
right. No, I think you have a viable solution there. Depending on, I don't know how long Bryce Young will be out. Hopefully not very long. But
yeah, I'm not hearing much of anything. It's really hush.
Yeah, they've the Nick Saban taking a page out of Bill Belichick's book. Everything's on lockdown. Nobody's saying a word. So hopefully we'll find out some news this week. But he did say, I think I saw in his post game that he wasn't overly concerned with how serious it was. So that generally tends to be good news. I'm thinking maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah, I guess they're saying he's got a bruise. So we're not looking. Yes. I mean, they're already kind of letting you know that he doesn't have a torn rotator cuff or anything like that.
That's great news to hear. Very positive. Thank God. Because he's incredible to watch. You hate to see any great player gone with injury. So heal up Bryce, and we'll see him soon. But I think Milroe, he's going to be just fine. I think for a game or two. And then the other ones were all pretty entertaining. NC State at Clemson was good right till the end, and really, to me. I had one at number 4 and the other at number 2, but really you could have put them 1 or 1A. Kentucky at Ole Miss and Oklahoma State at Baylor were probably
both incredible games.
Yeah, those were probably the 2 best games of the day. My slight lean is to Kentucky because it stayed one possession all the way to 0-0, whereas I think Oklahoma State had it kind of wrapped up with like 2 minutes to go after the Baylor quarterback threw that interception. Hell of a play by the defensive back for Oklahoma State, though, to make that catch on the sideline.
Here's one I got to ask. If
Yeah.
you had to go over looking back at the games that were played, what would you grab hold of that you didn't last week? Because I've got one game in mind. And that's go ahead.
Well, our honorable mentions last week, if I recall, here, Oklahoma at TCU was an honorable mention. Yikes!
Yeah, yikes! Right.
Yeah, and then Michigan at Iowa. That was a close game, but it just wasn't very entertaining for the most part. I mean, Michigan kind of had control the whole time. I guess
you just knew Iowa wasn't going to score very much, and
right.
by the time Michigan had scored a certain amount and over 10, you felt like it was over.
I guess the two that I would – the problem is ultimately, I mean, there's three kind of games that we could probably say should have been there. Wake Forest at Florida State was very good. Iowa State –
I believe that Gabe did mention that one, though.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, he did. Iowa State at Kansas was good.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Is that the one? Okay. And I would also say I thought the Texas A&M at Mississippi State game for like the first half was really entertaining.
Well, I mean, if you like watching Jimbo get a little closer to losing his job, it was great all the way around.
That was great. And then,
but
Mike Leach was giving wedding plans suggestions after the game, and his the sideline reporter was talking. That was quite hilarious because Leach is always hilarious.
But Jesus, Kansas now, that's blowing me away at this point. I really didn't expect them to beat Iowa State.
They're 5-0, Doug. 5-0. I mean,
yeah. They barely scored. I mean, this is a team that was averaging 50 points a game, and they took a real hit in that department. But they won, and that's something you don't see by the fifth game with Kansas is 5 wins.
Right. I mean, I think the Vegas said they had a 0.08% to go unbeaten through 5 weeks. So kudos to Lance Leipold and Kansas. Man, they keep racking up W's, and that's all that really matters.
Unexpected misses and honorable mentions.
So we'll start off with a couple of the honorable mentions for this week, and also some of the games we thought would be good but are not good. So we'll start with what we thought would be good but are not going to be, or not good, or they might be good games but they just don't really matter.
Don't have anybody's interest now.
Right. So what usually is a very important game in the Big 12, a game that I will be at, is in the old Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas. The State Fair will be going on. The Texas Longhorns will be taking on the Oklahoma Sooners in the Red River rivalry game. Unfortunately, both Texas and Oklahoma are not having years that they'd probably like to have. Both will come in with 2 losses. And Oklahoma's quite smarting after the thorough beating they took at the hands of the Horned Frogs of Texas Christian last week.
Yep.
So this game, people probably will, just for the posterity and history of it, might throw it on. It ultimately doesn't really have a bearing per se in the grand scheme of things. Another one that would normally be an important game in the Big Ten, but it won't. Ohio State travels to Michigan State, and we've seen in this rivalry over the years, some crazy things have happened. But
I'm not going to lie. As far as for the podcast, the main podcast for the week, I had this one circled. I was like, okay, this is definitely going to be Alex Bryan and Sean Vergoven time, and no, it's not going to happen. There's nothing to talk about.
There's nothing to talk about. The only thing you might say, the only reason you just score check this thing and go, When will Ohio State get up by 3 scores?
Yep.
And that's really it. Barring any crazy weather in East Lansing. If it's raining like crazy, then maybe not. But that's another one we're not going to need to worry about. And then another one that I thought was going to be good before the season started, particularly with the quarterback matchup, but it won't matter because both teams have sort of started to lay eggs. North Carolina visits the Miami Hurricanes, and I was excited for the May versus Van Dyke matchup, but unfortunately, Miami and North Carolina, they're not going to live up to their preseason hype or billing. So those are they were part of my list originally, and now I've pulled them out, Doug. I've pulled them out. They've, crumpled up the paper, thrown it in the trash can. Some honorable mentions though for this week that I'll keep these probably on my periphery monitors.
Well, you need to tell the listeners why we do these. We do them because if these end up being great games, we're still going to claim them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and again, we build this list before the season starts, but we leave wiggle room as how things move and change and get molded as teams win and lose and things of that nature. I don't know if you saw earlier today, but it looks like game day will be at Lawrence. But that's got
to be.
But let's save that for a little later. Well, when I saw that, you know what I immediately? It's not basketball season yet. No. They've been there for basketball.
I can't not recall that ever happening, unless it was in 2000. Unless it was 7.
I don't recall. Yeah, that'd be it was when the Mark Mangino years, maybe, but I don't recall ever seeing them in Lawrence. But I have for football game day. They have gone there for college basketball with Digger Phelps and obviously Reese Davis, and then Jay Billis, of course. But yeah, for football, maybe not. So some honorable mentions for this week to keep an eye on. One is the sneaky Washington State Cougars at USC Trojans. It just missed out on the top 5, Doug. But Washington State has one loss, freaky loss at home to Oregon. They were controlling that game, and then it got away from them within the last 6 minutes. They had the pick 6. But Washington State rebounded, I believe, this past week and took care of business at home against Cal. They beat a very decent Cal team. They beat them handily. So Washington State at USC, that's in our honorable mention category. Keep an eye on that. And then the other one that's in the honorable mention category, both have one loss. So which one will join, myself, the Irish, and all the other teams? We had a lot get added yesterday to the Double Deuce Saloon, the 2-loss club here. Starting to look like 2007 again. My last honorable mention, just simply because of the history and the rivalry and because of how both teams have looked over the last 2 weeks, is Auburn against Georgia. And I believe it's at Georgia. It's between the hedges. That is the lead-in. We get the twin bill on CBS next week, Doug. So this is the lead-in. Auburn at Georgia is going to be the 3:30 game, and then Texas A&M at Alabama will be the nightcap on CBS next week. But Auburn at Georgia, it's just outside the top 5, simply because Auburn has lost a couple of games. So the marquee draw of the Deep South's oldest rivalry loses its luster a little bit. But I still think it's going to be a very competitive game just because of how both teams have looked over the last couple of weeks. Which team is going to figure it out?
Support Smacking Off the podcast by patronizing our affiliates' products. Go to our website at smackology.42web.io and click the affiliates link. There you will find a host of great deals to stretch your dollar to its fullest.
Great products like Showtime, Shark Vacuums, Dish Network, Vidgo, Hulu, NFL Plus, and GameStop. The list goes on. Remember, smackology.42web.io and remember to click the affiliates link for these products and many more.
Hi, this is Kyle Golick, and I'm standing in the middle of SEC country. We're over here, Big Ten country here. Where do I stand? SEC, Big Ten. SEC, Big Ten. You're listening to Smacking Off the Podcast.
Mint Mobile, where overpaying is just not going to happen. Go to our affiliate links for more information. Find our affiliate link at smackology.42web.io and click affiliates at the top of the page.
Texas A&M at Alabama, 8 Eastern on CBS.
My number 5 game is the nightcap. Texas A&M visits Alabama. You know, and the reason it still stayed in the top 5 is, the off-season verbal back and forth, the verbal tennis match between Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. A&M comes in 3-2, albeit they've looked good at times, they've looked terrible at times. The only reason this game I think is a little closer right now is just simply the uncertainty with Alabama probably likely starting the backup quarterback. If Bryce Young was healthy, this wouldn't be a top 5 game because I'd think Alabama probably wins this game by 20, simply because watching Max Johnson or Haynes King, I don't care which one's out there. It's the old Spider-Man meme of one Spider-Man pointing at the other Spider-Man. Haynes King, Max Johnson, it makes no difference. A&M's offense is sort of it's not fun to watch.
That's putting it correctly. Yes.
Yes, I'm trying to, for the Aggie listener out there, I'm not trying to. I mean, they're doing the best they can with what they have. The problem is,
if I'm not mistaken, Iowa has slightly better numbers when you really dive into the offensive numbers than Texas A&M does.
And Spencer Petras of Iowa put him in that Spider-Man meme as well. He's Haynes King, Max Johnson, Spencer Petras. They're all the same guy. They're not good quarterbacks. Right. They're just guys. And as we've seen, these teams that are winning these games week in and week out have the dynamic play at quarterback. You have to, or your defense better be that doggone good to really lock down the other team. But just watching Texas A&M's offense with either Haynes King or Max Johnson, it's been tough. It's been very tough. But they're going to come in pumped, because of all the stuff that happened in the offseason. They're going to be thinking, well, Alabama's got the backup quarterback. Maybe we got a shot. I don't think so. I think probably Alabama wins this by 2 touchdowns, maybe even 3, especially because it's at Bryant-Denny. But I think it'll be interesting for at least a half. And then I think Alabama will pull away in the second half.
I have a suspicion that Bryce Young is going to start, and I have a suspicion that Saban already knows this.
Really?
Yes.
You got inside sources here, Doug? Are we breaking news?
Just listening to Nick talk about it. He's not saying much of anything. He's not giving any information whatsoever, and he just seems kind of giddy. I feel like I think he could have went back in the Arkansas game, and Saban just said, "No, we're not doing that."
You think we're getting sneaky Saban here, where he's being sly, the sly old fox, huh?
I think he knows that Bryce is going to play. I think Bryce could have played at the end of the Arkansas game, and Nick just said, "Fuck it. If we lose this game, we lose it. I'm not putting this guy back in for this." After that kind of hit.
Do you think that maybe in the back of his mind, the other reason he didn't put him back in was all the stuff that's going? I know it's the NFL, but all the sort of stuff that happened Thursday night with Tua.
Oh, it had to play into it because that was an ugly scene. And
our heart goes out to Tua. But I did see him, I think, tweet on Friday that he was feeling a lot better and he's just taking it, day by day. And I don't want them to rush him back, but it seems like he was intimating that was nothing overly serious.
I guess really the main thing that kind of tipped me off of what I believe was when the term that Bryce was day by day was used.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean that's well, but to be fair, as we know, Nick Saban is good friends with Bill Belichick. All this past week for the Patriots, they were saying that Mac Jones was day to day with his ankle, and
Mm-hmm.
and then today he was ruled out. I believe Brian Hoyer started that game, and then he got knocked out with a head injury.
So yeah, I get that. It doesn't make it a guarantee, but
So yeah, I
I
would say
just
I don't think it's quite a guarantee, but I do agree with you that Nick Saban usually always has, and even if Bryce doesn't play, I think Saban will make sure that it's Milrow, right?
yes, Jalen Milrow.
Jalen Milrow. I think even if Bryce doesn't play, Jalen Milrow will be more than prepared to go. He'll get probably if Bryce isn't going to play this week, like Milrow will get 100% of the first team reps in practice. And I frankly am as great as Bryce Young is, I'm excited to see more of Milrow.
No, I definitely am.
He's got a cannon for an arm. He's a little bit more shifty in the running game. With his move. I mean, that one run he had was just incredible. He made Bumper Pool go look for his jockstrap, I'll tell you that. And Bumper Pool's no slouch at linebacker for Arkansas, and he made him look like he was lost.
I guess another thing that makes me think that Bryce, we're going to see Bryce, is did you see him come when he came back out? He was trying to come on. He was trying to go out. He was trying to go out for the first series.
But there have been guys that you got to sometimes protect these guys from themselves. They really want to. Yeah, I can get back, Coach. I trust me. I can get back. And it's like,
but what it makes me think is that he was cleared, but he wasn't cleared by Saban.
Okay, I hope that's the case because I want to see.
Oh no, I really don't care if Milrow's the guy, and Alabama's got enough weapons, and he can run the offense. We've seen that. I don't worry for Alabama if Milrow's the guy, and I'm excited to watch it if that's the case.
And the other thing is,
those few things that I've named has made me think that.
Right. No, I completely agree with you. I didn't know those things, and Nick Saban a heck of a lot better than I do, from being following the Alabama program a lot closer than I do. But I will say two things before we move on. One, I completely agree with you. I think Jalen Milrow will be ready to run the offense if need be. Number two, even if he has to run the offense, you guys have a nice get out of jail free card. How good was Gibbs?
He was 210 yards, I believe.
He was phenomenal. I mean, that one run, he was shot out of a cannon and no one was catching him. I don't think they might have barely they might have got like a fingernail on him, but that was it. He was great, and that's just showing how important the transfer portal is. Because he'd still be on Georgia Tech, probably being real sad about Well, even though I think Georgia Tech did they hold on and beat Pitt?
They did?
Oh, good for Tech. So that's their first win, I think, of the year.
FSU at NC State. 8 Eastern kick on ACC Network.
So Florida State, NC State is my number 4. Florida State 4-1, NC State 4-1. Something's got to give, Doug. Something's got to give in the ACC. Obviously, we know Clemson's probably got through their 2 toughest games. Unless you could say you think Florida State, maybe they got a puncher's chance, but I think Florida State has to go to Death Valley. We can check that. I believe it's the week after this game.
That one's in Tallahassee.
Oh, it's in but it's the
Florida State and Clemson.
It is the following week, though, correct?
Oh, let me see. I'm real close to it right now. I can just go to week 7 and I'll tell you.
It is. Yes, I was right. It is. So Florida State has to go to NC State this week to just sort of stay alive in the ACC discussion. And then they go home and they get Clemson come to town.
Yep.
So this is a tough 2 weeks for Florida State. They have to win this game to stay in the race, the ACC race, that is. Or otherwise.
Yeah, but how could they make a bigger splash than upsetting Clemson and Tallahassee?
I would say that's the only. So if they lose this week in Raleigh, the only chance for redemption is they got to beat Clemson the following week at home. Otherwise, you're talking about a season that was full of high hopes. If you start 4-0, what if they lose these next two? Now they're 4-3. So,
Yep.
And they still have two rivalry games. They got to go to Miami, and say what you will about Miami. They're having their own issues, but that's a rivalry game, and it's down in Miami. So that's, it's going to be a challenge. And then they finish at home with Florida, which, again, say what you want about Florida. But again, these rivalry games, crazy things happen. So this is a big week for Florida State. Same is true for NC State, though I don't think their schedule is as challenging the rest of the way, even if they were to lose this game. So they've got their one loss, in a hard-fought game to Clemson. But if they get by Florida State this week, okay, yeah, Syracuse is unbeaten, and it's up in the formerly known as the Carrier Dome. Now it's something else. But if they get by Syracuse, Doug, they get Virginia Tech at home. Wake Forest, that's going to be a tough game, but they get it at home at Carter Finley, and it's a rivalry game on Tobacco Road. Then they get Boston College coming to town, and then they have a little road trip to Louisville, but Louisville hasn't overly impressed me. Then they finish with the rivalry game at North Carolina and Chapel Hill. So I think if NC State can get by Florida State this week, I don't see them maybe losing another game but for the Wake Forest game, because Wake Forest has shocked us all, I think, this year with how well they've played. So this is just such a huge game for both these programs and both these head coaches. I can't wait for it. I'm very excited. Going to be a night game there at Carter Finley, 8:00, and it's, unfortunately, I'm a little bummed by this. It's on ACC Network. I thought this game deserved at least ESPN or ESPN2 versus ACC Network, but I don't get to make those decisions. But I mean, there's not a lot of one-loss teams left. The two-loss club is filling up and filling up quickly, Doug. So this one's just huge. That's why it's number 4.
Tennessee at LSU. Noon Eastern kick on ESPN.
The number 3 game. And I know you are. I think you're super excited for this one. Two of your most favorite teams, Doug. And you know who I'm talking about.
I got so many favorite teams, Sean. Help me out.
Well, two of your very most favorite in the SEC.
Okay, so LSU's got to be one of them.
Yeah, the Corn Dogs, of course. And who do they play this week? Rocky Top comes to town. The Tennessee Volunteers. And if you haven't noticed, if you have social media here in the last 2 weeks, Vols have come out of hiding. The Vol man thinks he's going to the CFP this year, Doug.
They do. You're right. They're very confident.
Unbeaten Tennessee is going to Baton Rouge with what should have been a 2-loss LSU team, but they pulled it out at Jordan-Hare. So they have 1 loss. So LSU still alive in the SEC picture because their only loss came out of conference. So Huge game. Baton Rouge, as you know, is going to be absolutely crazy. Both fan bases, I don't know if you've seen this, have been very upset that Auburn and Georgia is the 3:30 CBS game of the week versus this game, as well as Texas A&M and Bama is the night game on CBS. I think this game is on ESPN. I think it's going to be or ABC. It's going to be the Saturday night game of the week. It should be.
Should be, and you know why Alabama Texas A&M is the main CBS game, and it's all off-season shit.
Oh, of course. Yeah, the silliness of Jimbo Fisher and his comments,
but Tennessee at LSU is definitely a more interesting game.
Yeah,
on paper.
Yeah, I'm extraordinarily excited for this game. I have no idea who I'm going to root for or against. As you know, I don't much care for either program. I think I'd like to see an unbeaten third Saturday in October in Knoxville. So I'll probably be rooting for the Vols. Though I do not think there's a lot of overly confident Vols that think they're just going to walk in there and win that game easily.
Oh, no. It's difficult to win there at night, and it don't make a shit what their record is. They're going to play their ass off. And if you go down there and fuck around, you're going to get beat.
We saw that with Mississippi State a few weeks ago. Mississippi State shouldn't have lost that game. They just, they played sloppy football. LSU, say what you want, when they're at home, they play their tail off, and they got them. And that's not to say they didn't play their tail off against Auburn, but Auburn made too many mistakes late in that game. And LSU capitalized, but they'll be ready Saturday night when the Vols come to town. And we've seen the Vols go to LSU a few times unbeaten and lay an egg. So hopefully Tennessee is ready for it. I know LSU will be ready for it. And this has huge implications in the SEC race for both teams, hoping to try to get to Atlanta, because they're both unbeaten in conference. I know LSU has the loss, but that was Florida State non-conference. There's no bearing on the conference race. So I'd like to see LSU take their first in conference loss here. But would I be totally shocked if they pulled this one out? No, I would not. I would not be surprised if next Saturday night we're talking and the Tigers win that game. I would not be shocked, especially if Tennessee gets caught thinking about Alabama, because I think that's the next week, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
So this is a huge task for both head coaches too. I know Heupel's been there a little longer at Tennessee than obviously this is Kelly's first year at LSU, but can they manage their roster and the expectations? And obviously, Hendon Hooker so far has played incredible football thus far this year. He's looked great. Can he do it again on the road? The only road test they've had this far, and it was a good road test, was Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh isn't LSU. That's just
no. This is a Pittsburgh team capable of losing to Georgia Tech. Right,
and even as loud as whatever they're calling Heinz Field now, that's only 68,000. LSU's going to have. I think they seat now over 100,000 at Tiger Stadium. They'll have all 100,000 seats filled, and they'll be loud and they'll be rowdy. We'll see how Hendon Hooker handles it. I think he'll do okay. But yeah, I'm very excited for this game. This could be one of those games of the year, and I probably should have it rated a little higher. But the reason I have it at number 3 is LSU and Tennessee are traditional powers. I know they're not blue bloods, but they're just outside the gate of being blue bloods. They're historically great programs. LSU's won the second most, I think, national titles since 2000, just behind Alabama, if memory serves. Tennessee certainly has an illustrious history all their own. So that's why it's just number 3 for me, because we sort of generally expect these teams to be good. I know Tennessee hasn't for a hot minute, but LSU just won the national title in 2019, and they are just one or two pieces away every year because they recruit so well that they should always sort of be in the discussion. It's just they happen to have Coach O go off the rails there, after he won the national title, which good for him. He's living life large now. He said that himself after he got the buyout. He goes, what door do I leave out of, and what day and time? Mm-hmm. But and I think Kelly will get them back to the standard that they expect. Will it happen this year? I don't think so, but clearly in the recruiting, he's doing a very good job there. He's got to find a quarterback. So far, their quarterback play has been a bit erratic. And in a game like this, assuming Hooker stays healthy, he's played great. I think he will be the difference in this game if he can maintain his poise in that raucous environment that is going to be Tiger Stadium. Mm-hmm. So I'll have my popcorn ready. I hope you do.
I'm going to pick Tennessee to win this game. Close.
I'm
with you though. It wouldn't shock me at all if LSU pulls this game off. And, I've seen them beat teams they shouldn't beat down there and win handedly, and beat a team that they probably couldn't beat on a neutral field
or on the road. Right? Yeah. Right. Exactly. So it's you just never know what you're gonna ultimately get with LSU, but you do know when they play at night at home in Tiger Stadium, they're a little bit different. Team. It's just, it is what it is. We've seen it for years.
Shark is America's #1 vacuum. Find yours today at our website at smackology.42web.io and click affiliates at the top of the page.
Hello, this is Viral TikTok King and Justin Brindley. You're watching Smacking Off the Podcast with Doug and Shannon.
Support Smacking Off the Podcast by patronizing our affiliates' products. Go to our website at smackology.42web.io and click the affiliates link. There you will find a host of great deals to stretch your dollar to its fullest.
Great products like Showtime, Shark Vacuums, Dish Network, VidGo, Hulu, NFL Plus, and GameStop. The list goes on. Remember, smackology.42web.io and remember to click the affiliates link for these products and many more.
Utah at UCLA 3:30 Eastern kick on Fox.
The number 2 game I have this week, the 4-1 Utah Utes are at the unbeaten 5-0 UCLA Bruins on Saturday, Doug.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's a big game. I'm fixing to pull that up and tell you when it is.
Everyone wrote Utah. They lost to Florida. They probably should have won that game. They made just too many mistakes in the red zone. They just couldn't get the ball in the end zone. And they just couldn't quite figure out Anthony Richardson either, who played a spectacular game that day. But true to them being a Kyle Whittingham coach team, the discipline, play the next play, they went home, they licked their wounds, they didn't roll over and die. All they've done since losing that Florida game is win, and win convincingly, Doug. They had a challenge this past week against Oregon State, and they didn't skip a beat. They took care of business. UCLA, man, this is a team. They are very much the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team. Except unfortunately, nobody's there to see it, because if you haven't noticed, every week somebody's taking a picture of the Rose Bowl when they play at home, and it's like there's 5 people there.
This is an early game. This is 3:30 Eastern kick on Fox.
So that'll be 12:30 out here on the left coast.
Mm-hmm.
And Utah,
that's right after brunch game.
Right. So, man, Chip Kelly's got UCLA playing quite well. They easily took care of, sadly, our good friend Bruce Martinez, the dog father, his Washington Huskies. I said, will they play? I asked him. I said, will they play like big dogs or puppies? Unfortunately, they played like puppies. But they're still rebuilding their program. Chip Kelly's been there now. How long is he? Is it 5 years now? Chip Kelly there?
Oh wow, that's he ain't done anything yet, but he's come close a few times.
I was right. So he's in his 5th year there.
Now that I don't know. Did you look it up?
I looked it up. So this is his 5th season there.
That's amazing.
He's a little under 500, 23-25. But maybe this is his sort of coming out party this year. They're 5-0. They're unbeaten. But they have been Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They easily handled, Washington, who is a very good football team. Don't take anything away from them. But then they just barely squeaked out that win against South Alabama, 32-31. So we don't know yet what UCLA team is going to show up. Utah hasn't really changed their formula. They play very tough defense, and then they try to establish the run and run the ball on you. If they get that run game going, they're going to ride that. They're going to ride that all day. And this is going to really decide sort of which way the Pac-12 South, I think this is the last year for divisions. Who's going to be that South? I know USC's that's hanging around unbeaten, but USC the last couple of weeks it's looked a little shaky. This is my perspective. I don't know what you think.
They just got kind of been taking care of business quietly, but not really doing much more than that.
Right. For the great players they have on that offense and the great mind that is the Lincoln Riley, head coach there with his offense.
Tiggy's posts are way more exciting than the USC games.
Right. Exactly. Right.
But yeah, they just haven't looked quite that exciting on offense. But they're, as long as you win, so whether it's by 1 or by 50, a win is a win is a win. And they're handling their business.
It is USC. If USC ends up undefeated at the end of the year, and they are a blue blood program, and they're a big TV draw for that for the West Coast, they're definitely going to be in the playoffs. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts.
If USC goes unbeaten and is the Pac-12 champ, whether you like them or not, or you think their wins were, not
there is no question whatsoever.
They're in. Yeah, there's no doubt they're in. And like you said, as much as that taking into account the market, I don't think that's part of the CFP parameters. But deep down, that's going to be in the back of people's minds. Wow, yep. We're going to have the LA market for the semifinal games. That's and I know it's not really great. It's not fair, but it's just sort of the reality of the situation. But I mean, that's a long way coming. But this game right here, this will pair down. We'll figure out, of those three in the South of Pac-12, USC, UCLA, or Utah. Who's it going to be? What's it going to be? I'm excited for this game. I know it's early in the day, but that's okay. We're gonna find out who's for real and who's not. This is definitely a put up or shut up game.
I know everybody's probably waiting for the wheels to fall off of UCLA, and it probably will happen.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the line yet on this game, but I would assume that Utah is probably the favorite, just simply because of how erratic UCLA has been thus far, even though they are unbeaten. Whereas
let me go ahead and say this though. This one's in Pasadena. I think UCLA wins this game. I think they go to 6-0.
Really, man,
I do. Home field. Utah is definitely a different team at home.
Yeah, but they travel. Their fans are going to travel, I think, to this game. I don't know how much the home field advantage will be, unless UCLA fans suddenly decide to show up. Maybe they will this week.
Well, they really should. I mean, this is a number 11 team in the country coming to town. I don't know what their record is against UCLA. They play every year, don't they?
I believe they do.
So, yeah, they're divisional rivals for now.
UCLA leads the all-time series, 11 wins to 8 losses with 0 ties in this series.
Close series.
But the caveat that
Utah has won most of their games recently, right?
Utah is on a 5-game winning streak dating back to 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep, I can see that.
That's more impetus for UCLA to want to win this game, is in that streak. And I'll do quickly just to jump back to game number 3, Tennessee at LSU. I forgot to mention this. Tennessee leads that series all time, 20 wins to 10 losses and 3 ties all time against LSU. And just like this UCLA Utah here, LSU is on a 5-game win streak against the Vols. So 2 teams looking to end losing streaks to, I wouldn't say they're number 1 rival, but certainly rivals in their conference. And you're right. I mean, if UCLA can't get fans for this game, then just shut it down. I mean, you got 2 teams that are ranked. It's gonna be a great game in the Rose Bowl. Great setting there in Pasadena. I guess I'm gonna lean with you. I think Chip Kelly's gonna have his guys motivated and ready to go. Let's see what the score last year was in Salt Lake City. Yeah, Utah won by 20 points. So I think Chip Kelly's going to be letting his guys know. These guys sort of embarrassed you last year. So I think UCLA will be primed and ready to go. And you're right, Utah is definitely a little bit different team on the road than they are at home. So I'll say probably UCLA by a field goal, maybe a touchdown.
TCU at Kansas. Noon Eastern kick on FS1.
there's my good friend Bobby the Buzzard is back this week. Good to see good old Bobby Buzzard is back. But we've already sort of alluded to it in what we were talking about earlier, which is, College game day is going to be at Lawrence, Kansas. And this is a battle of ranked teams that are both unbeaten. The TCU Horned Frogs are 4-0, and they're visiting the 5-0 Kansas Jayhawks, Doug.
Coming off an absolute mugging of the Oklahoma Sooners.
Oh, that was a brutal beatdown. Just every way, shape, or form, TCU was dominated Oklahoma from the get-go. And it probably could have been worse, but, once you're up 55, you got 55, and they're the other, what does it matter? We knew that, the outcome was decided. Kansas, I think this might be the week where they finally take that first loss. They need to thank the football special teams gods. That Iowa State's kicker, he missed 3 field goals, Doug. 3 of them. And Kansas hung on to win 14-11. 9 points left on the field there by Matt Campbell and Iowa State. Probably should have been a W. It wasn't. But that's good for us. It's a good news story. Kansas football, sort of back. I don't think they're quite to the Mark Mangino days of the late 2000s, where they went to, I believe, an Orange Bowl, if memory serves.
Yes.
But I think we're talking about a team that could be 8-4, maybe 9-3 if things really shake out well. Obviously, the stadium there will be rocking. It's not the biggest, but it'll be packed with Jayhawk fans. And for once, they don't have to just say, hey, we're waiting for basketball season. They've got a good football team, and they've got a really good head coach in Lance Leipold. He's taken over. I think he took over for Les Miles when Les was asked to leave, if memory serves.
For shit he didn't even do at Kansas.
Right,
he did it so bad it followed him to his next job.
It followed him to Kansas. Yeah. I do think we'll cut to the minutia real quick. I do think TCU wins this game, and I think they win it probably by 2 touchdowns. I hate to squash the excitement that is Jayhawks football, but what I am excited for in this game, Doug, 2 new coaches to their respective programs. Lance Leipold at Kansas, he's working on building his program, and he's already well ahead of the game. We saw that last year when they upset Texas down in Austin. And then looking at Sonny Dykes over in TCU, who he rebuilt SMU, and got them back to a pretty good level. TCU poaches him from across town. Short move for Sonny Dykes from Dallas to Fort Worth. And he had big shoes to fill. Gary Patterson,
absolutely,
took TCU from a group of 5 school to a Power 5 school. Now, it took him some time. I mean, Gary Patterson was there for at least 15 years, if memory serves.
Well, I can tell you who he took over for. He took over for Dennis Franchione when he left TCU to come to Alabama, and that was in 2000. That was actually at the end of the 2000 season.
Okay, yeah. So, wow, even, 20 years then for Gary Patterson. We're starting to get openings. We just saw it today. Paul Chryst gone at Wisconsin. But my next point, kind of as a tertiary thought here, with TCU running good, Baylor running good, and Kansas running good, my thought is, are we going to see these coaches get poached by bigger programs? And I said, if Auburn does fire Brian Harsin at the end of the season, which I think they will, and I think you think they will.
According to Greg McElroy, it's a done deal. It's already happened.
If you're Auburn, aren't you calling all 3 of these guys?
Yeah, I'm starting to hear a lot about Dion from Auburn, but I don't know if that's coming. I mean, just the fans.
I don't know. I don't really think Dion wants that job. Do you?
I don't know if he wants it. I don't know if Auburn will make that move.
That's right. That's certainly. But Dion should also
be getting a phone call as well from Auburn. I agree with that. They should. They should interview him. There's a lot of guys they should be calling and interviewing that are up and coming, Dion included.
I think
sure.
Auburn's they're going to want to hit a home run with this one. I don't know if there's a home run available out there right now.
I was like, what home? I mean, I'm trying to think of one. I can't.
I mean, I guess if they could get Gary Patterson to come out of retirement. I mean, he's not in retirement. He's actually working somewhere. Where's he at?
Yeah, I thought he was like a special advisor somewhere.
Is he at Texas?
That is a hell of a question.
So if he does have a job right now, then maybe he is interested in getting back in. I believe that's about the biggest home run anybody could hit right now would be to score Patterson. Big program.
It's that, and of course, until he says he's not interested. The other one, of course, is Urban Meyer. Everybody the Nebraska people were saying, "Oh, Urban Meyer," and then I think he finally, turned that down, and then the next I've heard some Wisconsin people saying, "Oh, maybe we could." I said, "That's just silly."
I think Urban Meyer would possibly take a job, but I think it would be I think there's just a handful of jobs he would take at this point. I think Notre Dame is probably the top of the list, and
that what he did, that ship has definitely sailed from Notre Dame's side of the house. I think if Marcus Freeman doesn't work out, I do think ultimately Luke Fickell would be the guy, at Cincinnati that they would probably go after. But you were right, yeah. Gary Patterson, just simply a special assistant to Steve Sarkisian at Texas. So yeah, if he wants to get back into the head coaching game, I think Auburn should certainly give him a call.
How old is Patterson?
Patterson is 62.
So I guess that would be the issue: is how much longer does he coach?
Well, I mean, Saban's 70, and Brian Kelly, I think, is 68.
I guess you could assume that if everything goes well, that you get at least 10 years out of him.
Yeah. So let me just make sure I wasn't giving you and the audience a load of horse.
Hey, Google, how old is Gary Patterson?
No, I saw that one. He's 62.
Okay.
Kelly is 60. Excuse me, I gave him too many. So Kelly's 60. Okay, 62. They gave Kelly a 10-year deal. 60, that's age 70. 72, so it's really on if Patterson, I think, wants to get back into the head coaching racket. That's really it's up to him. But yeah, if you're Auburn, you gotta at least give him a phone call. And then you have those 4, 5 young coaches there, sort of in the Big 12 and Big 10. Here's a guy. Let me tell I know they kind of screwed the pooch this weekend, but PJ Fleck is at Minnesota. How much longer does he? How far can you take Minnesota?
That's true.
And maybe he's looking, but they started unbeaten. They did, they screwed up a little bit at home against Purdue. That was not the best loss for them, but I think they'll bounce back. They might even win the Big Ten West. If they win,
if you're Auburn, do you really? I mean, they're going to be making a hire this year for sure. If Harsin is gone, and like I said, Greg McElroy said that it's a done deal. He's gone. Yeah.
So all of these guys should get phone calls. Is the point? But yeah, just to get back to
my point though is that Auburn's going to be going head to head with Nebraska for candidates. If they're going to be looking at that level of candidate, Nebraska is definitely going to be looking at that level of candidate.
Certainly. No, I agree. I mean, I definitely know that Nebraska is probably going to interview PJ Fleck if they can. I'm not quite sure what the Big Ten rules are regarding sitting coaches at your fellow institution in the conference.
So I know we're early here, but does Bielema get a look? Because he's definitely got Illinois in a place they haven't been in a while.
I think it's too soon. I really do. Though I do think I agree with you. I think he'd fit Nebraska fairly well.
I agree.
So I think maybe he does get an interview, but I don't see him getting hired. He's only been at Illinois 2 years now. I think 2 years. It's so new. But you're not wrong. I mean, yeah, Illinois is certainly trending up where they haven't been in, since I think Ron Zook was there in the early 2000s.
And then you have to go ahead and realize that Bielema has 3. If I'm not mistaken, does he have 3 Big Ten titles?
I believe he does. So I mean, there's a pedigree there for Bielema in that conference. Fleck has rebuilt Minnesota, which I mean, you know how hard it is to recruit Minnesota. I mean, that's yeoman's work he's doing there. And then the other one that's right down the road, you cross the border into Iowa. You know, Matt Campbell's still there at Iowa State. How much longer does he want to stay there? He might have taken Iowa State as far as they can go. So there's going to be a lot of options for Auburn and Nebraska, and any of these other programs that decide it's time to, Arizona State, right? I mean, that's another one.
All right, Sean, I'll talk to you next week, and maybe Gabe will be back.
I hope Gabe is back, and I wish him and his family the best. And I wish you the best. Have a good week, Doug, and we'll talk to you next Sunday.
Here's 6 things that you can do to help support this podcast. Like, share and comment on our videos. Buy our merchandise. Use our affiliate web links to buy great products and services from our affiliates. And tell others about our podcast. Listen to Smacking Off the Podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Also check us out on the Podbean app, Player FM and Podchaser.